So need for quality control. Although I've gone through this before the break, but let me go through it again. In the absence of quality control, the following will result. There will be no yardstick for comparing the quality of goods and services. Difficulty maintaining consistency and quality. Dissatisfied customers due to increased maintenance and operating cost of products and services. Then increased reward cost while manufacturing products and manufacturing products or providing services. Then reduce lifetime of products and services. Please, I trust we are seeing my screen. Please, if you can see my screen clearly, please, can you help me? Put yes, if you can see my screen. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Let me be sure. All right, thank you. Inspection. Inspection as a tool in quality. To produce a quality product, inspection is very important. Inspection not only controls quality, but also reduces manufacturing costs, avoids scrap losses, and assignable causes of defective work. It is necessary to assure confidence to manufacturer and end satisfaction to customer. Now, what are the objectives of inspection? The major objectives of inspection are to dictate and prevent defects in products and processes, to highlight the product or process defect to appropriate authorities for necessary and corrective actions, to identify defected parts or products and prevent it from further consumption or usage. Now, we have the three types of quality control. We have the offline quality control, we have the statistical quality control, and we have the acceptance sampling plans. Now, let's look at each one and see what it has to say. For offline quality control, its purpose is to deal with measures to select and choose controllable product and process parameters in such a way that the deviation between the product or process output and the deviation will be minimized. Much of this task is accomplished through product and process design. Then we have the statistical quality control, which requires usage of acceptance sampling and process control techniques. Statistical quality control extensively uses charts to measure the acceptance level of product samples. We have things like control charts, where we talk about things like the normal, then we have the upper control limit and the lower control limit. Then we have the upper critical control limit and the lower critical control limit. Now, for those of us in the quality control department, you have your standards or you have your specifications on what is to be accepted, then what is to be tolerated and what is to be rejected. Every quality control department has those standards. So let's assume that 20 is your default for accepting, and then 30 is the area you can tolerate, either 30 above or 30 below the lines. And then from 40 above, or say from 31 above, that becomes upper critical. That means there'll be higher deviations above the lines that have been marked. Okay, now let me use a typical example of what we do in, it might not be statistical sampling as it were, but if we are to plot them in charts, they will become statistical sampling. Let's take, for instance, you want to buy a plot of land, and you've set your benchmark to say, okay, the plot of land you're going to buy is 1.5 million naira. Okay, and then you okay. All right, audio is breaking. Can you hear me now? The audio is breaking. Can you hear me now? All right. So I was trying to give an example of statistical sampling, or the things we do on daily basis, statistical sampling. I was trying to use an example. I said, let's assume you want to build a house, okay? And you've already benchmarked your land, the land you want to buy. You've already benchmarked it for 1.5 million, assumedly. So you say, okay, your default price, your normal is 1.5 million. But at the same time, you can say, okay, worst come to worst, you can do 2.5, dependent on the location. That's worst case scenario, okay? And then what it simply means is from 2.5 upwards, or sorry, from 2.51 upwards, those ones are no longer within your reach. So by default, 1.5 million is this. That's your best bet. That's what you really would have loved to go for, right? But all of a sudden, you find that based on demand and on the location you're trying to get that land from, 2 million and 2.5 could be a good bargain, irrespective of the fact that you wanted to do 1.5, but you find that okay, you can actually tolerate 2 million or 2.5 based on what you see either in the location or what the environment is saying, right? Okay, but at the same time, you could say, oh, anything above 2.5, that would be so critical for me. I won't be able to afford it. So if you're to plot this in a graph, okay, you're going to have your normal, you're going to have your upper control limit, and then you're going to have your critical upper control limits. All right. In the same way, in the production processes that we do, we have this kind of samples, or we have this kind of sampling. In my days in UAC Nigeria, I worked in the production department. So we produce sausages, that's gala, right? So in the production of gala, in the specification for acceptance, all right, if you check gala very well, you find that irrespective of how much we try in the control room or in the production department, you find that it's difficult to have, say, 5 pieces of gala that look exactly alike. There is always a slight color deviation, and in most cases, the color deviation could be so obvious that you find that this one is golden brown, and this one is milky brown, and then you find one that is, and if care is not taken, you find one that is more brownish. All right, but in the production room, they will tell you the standards to accept. So golden brown, you accept. Milky brown, you accept. Baked white brown, you accept. And then if it is getting to carton color, you reject. Of course, if it turns black, automatically you reject. Don't bother doing anything. All right. So all of these are simple control limits that have been set, which might not have matrices, numerical matrices, but they have objective matrices that we can use to find them out, right? Okay. He said my line is breaking again. Oyebola, is my line still breaking? Oyebola said my line is breaking. Please, is it applicable to everyone? Okay. All right, then the next one we'll talk about there is the acceptance sampling plans. Acceptance sampling is done on samples samples post-production to check for quality parameters as decided by the organization, covering both attributes as well as variables. If the sample does not meet the required parameters of quality, then that given lot is rejected and further analysis is done to identify the source and rectify the defect. Now, I've echoed it over and over again that for project managers, it's important you work hand in hand with safety managers. And as a safety manager, it's important you get to have project management skills. Now, one of the basic processes in project management is what we call the project closure. And what we do in project closure, as it were, is scope verification and acceptance, right? So we do acceptance management under closure. And before we actually arrive at acceptance management, we would have done what we call prototyping, or natively what we call demo, all right, in prior to commencement of the project, right? And there is no project that doesn't have a demo. There is no project, be it service product or product project, there is no project that doesn't have a prototype, right? Now, if you're to talk about housing projects, you have your prototypes in forms of architectural designs and plans. If you're to talk about service products, you have a guarantee to test the product and whether it will work or not. Now, in acceptance planning, or in acceptance, project acceptance, there would have been some laid down standards of acceptance to that product at the end of the day. So whatsoever the deliverable will look like after the product, the terms and conditions, the features, the attributes to be associated with the project deliverable would have been established, such that by the end of the project, we will be looking out for those features. If we find the features as it was stated, or as they were stated in the initials, in the scope, very first scope of the project, then we accept. If not, the project may have to undergo rework, or the project owner may reject the project. Now, when we look at project quality management, we look at things like cost of quality. Then we look at things like cost of conformity, and then we look at cost of performance and all of those things, cost of compliance, right? If you don't put in good articulation the cost of quality, cost of conformance, cost of performance to quality in your project planning, your acceptance management will always have a case to face with, because the cost of quality of a project is actually different from the cost of the project itself. So in essence, you could actually have the same project, right, but with different quality parameters. So the quality parameters in the project will determine the final or the actual project cost. That's the difference in quality cost plus the cost of producing that product. That will give you the actual product or the actual project cost. So in a case where the defined quality at the initial start is different from the delivered quality, then the stakeholder has all the legal rights to reject the project. All right. So we need to pay critical attention in project quality management, or generally business quality management. Okay, so quickly, let's look at process analysis and design, product and service design. Product and service design. A product and service design is based on the customer feedback and requirement of the market. Process design is where the product is broken down into parts, which further can be helpful in actual manufacturing process. All right. Now, when we started this class, we said that safety is a good business. All right. Safety is a good business. And safety must be integrated into the fabric of any business for it to achieve optimum performance, productivity, and profitability. Not only that, for it to achieve sustainability and continuity advantage, safety must be integrated into the fabric of every business. Now, I'm going to share this case study. I read this from a book, and I'm not sure the book was going to be lying. I read it from a marketing book, and it was talking about business reputation. All right, how safety now, this company happened to be a assumed food company, and they were producing drinks for children. So for the years they've been into operation, nobody knew that all they were combining together was just different colors plus water plus sweeteners. And at the point, they discovered that children who were consuming these products in large quantity started having health defects, having health challenges. And someone took the case up and started researching on the company and started carrying out proximate analysis and general food analysis on the product. And they found out that there was no single nutritional benefit to that product, but the over accumulation of the chemicals they were using were the things that were causing the issues that children were suffering from. Now, that company one was shut down, and they were placed under legal fines to settle all the families that had those cases. And for everyone that bought their product, they were going to pay a heavy fine, heavy medical fine on them. And for anyone within that period, any child within that period that was diagnosed of such case that was emanating from that product, the company was going to face and take charge of that. All right. Now, the question is, why is it so? It is so because the company did not put into account the safety conditions, the safety requirements in the product and service design. All right. So we have to pay attention to product and service design. Very, very important. We have to pay attention to product and service design. Okay, someone is saying that my network is breaking. Is it better now, or is it still breaking? Is the network still breaking? Okay, my network went off, but is back. So please let me be sure. If you can hear me clearly, kindly please notify. If you can hear me clearly, please kindly notify. If you can hear me clearly, all right, thank you so much. All right, so process planning. We have the process requirement, team building, planning and implementation, audit, and end of life cycle, or end of process life cycle, right? Now, in the process requirement, the very first step is to collect and gather information to give structure with the end objective. That is to make process requirement document, highlighting various stages, risk, and stakeholders for production. This will include assessment of available technology, raw material, factory or plant layout, and then demand forecast. For team building, once the process requirements are finalized, for each objective, a team is finalized based on skill level and experience. Function of the team is to get familiarized with the whole process. Then for planning and implementation, the process planning team will develop module policies and procedures required for production, which are sent for approval internally. After implementation, they are sent for external approval. Then for audit, a regular audit is carried out to ensure that process thus implemented is in line and delivering value to customers. Then the end of the life cycle, over a course of time, there may be enhancement of the product, or product may get discontinued. In this situation, process thus developed is discontinued. The production process. Based on the nature of the product and service production, conversion process can be divided into two broad categories. We have the continuous production, example, assembly line, oil refinery, and intermittent production, example, job work or service, especially contract-based assignments. Production process for both manufacturing industry and service industry can be classified into broad categories based on standardization of product or service. It can range from single project assignment, like a building or bridge manufacturing, to interior design, like service, and mass production project like a car, that's example of manufacturing, to a fast food joint like service. So whether it is a service-oriented project or a product-oriented project, safety is very important. Now, process design. A successful process design has to take into account the appropriateness of the process to overall organizational objective. Process design requires a broad view of the whole organization and should not have a myopic outlook. In order to achieve a good process design, effective process strategy is required, which deals with a singular line items required to manufacture the end product. Effective process strategy deals with raw material procurement, customer participation, technology investment, employee participation, stakeholders participation, and all of that together. All right. Now, there are two things I want to highlight here. I was given an instance of that company that was producing something, selling to children, and nobody knew that they were manufacturing rubbish. Okay. Of course, I'm confident that the production strategy that gave birth to the product was dependent on, first of all, the organizational objective. If the organizational objective is wrong, no matter how effective or efficient your process or system strategy is or are, that product will always be a problem product. If the organizational objective is negative, is bad, is wrong, if the objective is not good, the product cannot be good. All right. So the first thing there is to have a good organizational policy or organizational vision or objective. And remember, organizational objective has two dimensions. You have the internal dimensions and you have the external dimension. And of course, it is the external dimension that actually drives the internal dimension, right? When it comes to organizational objective, the external dimension focuses on what the customer wants. They demand features and they demand attributes. What the customer wants determine how the company will serve the demand of those customers. What the customer wants will determine how the organization will serve the customers. So the external environment always have a very good grip on determining internal policies and objectives. All right. Then the second thing there is, when we are running process design, we shouldn't take a myopic view. We should be strategic in the things we do as regards to strategy. Okay, we must take a long-term view on what we are doing, right? Okay, I needed to make those two things very clearly. Now, effective product design. Effective product design. A good product design has following common features. We have utility, we have producible, we have differentiable, profitability, and aesthetics. I think I've somehow explained utility. It is the value that the customer wants that we are producing for. We are not producing for the value we want. Okay, I always use this case. When I was growing up in my family, we are brought up entrepreneurially. We are given that entrepreneurial opportunity to explore ourselves. So for me, while I was growing up, I used to sell bread. So early in the morning, I would go and buy bread and sell a little before I go to school. Then when I come back from school, I will sell the remaining. All right. But I discovered something, that when my dad gives me money to go and buy bread, I will always calculate how much, I calculate the risk on the aspect of how many of the bread I will be willing to consume should I not sell the bread. Do you get what I just said? I calculate, then they used to sell one tray of bread for about 50 naira then. That's 400 pieces of bread buns. Sorry, for 50 pieces of bread buns, they used to sell it 15 naira then. Then we sell 15 naira, 20 naira for one, right? Okay, so I used to calculate before I buy, I calculate, assuming I did not finish this thing, how many can I finish? Like I'm eating it by myself. How many can I finish, right? So I will calculate that how many I feel I can finish. When I sell the much I can sell in the morning. When I'm going to school, I take some pieces to school. When I come back from school, I consume a little before I go to sell. All right. So what does that mean? It means that I was actually doing the business for my own consumption, not for the customer. I was not calculating how much I was going to sell. I was calculating the risk based on, assuming I didn't finish it, how many can I consume? So sometimes if I feel like, oh, this is Saturday, I can finish, or I will buy the full tray, and if possible, buy 2 trays. Okay. But if it's on a working day, I'm sure I will have to sell less than 50 in a day. Then I may have to buy like 25. Maybe I will sell 20 and eat 5, right? So the utility was not for the customer. Like for me selling, it wasn't for the customer, it was for me. So in business, as it were, the utility is for the customer, not for us as producers. The utility is the value that the customers derive from the product, right? So we have to pay attention to utility, how value is created, how we design the whole process that creates the value is very, very important. Okay, then every other thing there are important. All right. Objectives of product design. The essence of product design is to satisfy customer and maximize the value for the customer at minimum cost. Okay, I think that's what I just explained now. The product or service should also be able to meet primary needs and desire of the customer. This may not require development of new product, but enhancement to existing product or service. I was sharing this in the project management class when we were talking about feasibility study and all of that. Now, most people that start businesses, they start the business because they feel the business is feasible. To them, is feasible. There was no market research. There was no customer survey to find out whether the business was actually feasible or not. So you see young entrepreneurs, they come up and they tell you that this business is going to work. Meanwhile, you ask them, how many people do you think will need this product? And they'll be like, we are not sure, but we are sure that we'll sell the product. And it makes it difficult to calculate the break-even point at the end of the day. And investors will find it difficult to invest in such product. So it's important that we get this thing right. The people we are producing for are called customers. It is not family and friends, except family and friends are your major customers and they are willing to pay. Not use family and friends to take your product and not pay. Your business will not be sustainable, right? So importantly, before any product is produced, we must pay attention to conducting a real-time feasibility study. And please, it's important for us to know that since market survey is part of the production process, as it were, it is therefore essential that the safety manager or the safety supervisor get to be part of the people who conduct market survey or customer survey. All right, because you will be the one to tell the quality control exactly what the customers want. You'll be the one to tell the production manager exactly what the customers want. All right, and should there be deviation between what was stated as to what customers want to what the production is going, you can easily identify that. All right, so it's important we pay attention to this. Customers are the reasons why we have businesses, not for ourselves. Okay, all right. Now, stages in product design. Product design is a creative process which looks at all the available options and beyond. The process can be divided into 3 stages. We have the first stage, which involves brainstorming, bringing ideas and analysis of customer and market feedback. Then we have stage 2. Idea is converted into a feasible solution to satisfy the customer expectation using available resources and technology. Stage 3, this is the last stage in which the product is introduced into the market. Factors Factors affecting product design. A successful product design is a combination of factors as follows: correct team selection, customer involvement, prototyping and testing, raw material, production method and process layout, external factors. Now, I want you to, every other thing here said is critical, but I want you to put a little attention on this number 2, customer involvement. Now, before the 20th or 21st century, the kind of production process we had was a batch production process, a mass production process, continuous production process. Customers were not really involved. Before now, we don't talk about customer experience. We were not looking at choices. Customers didn't really have much choices. But with the evolution of technology and so many other things coming into play, you find that now that the people determining production now are the customers. So if you don't involve your customers now in your business, you'll be running at a loss. And that is where we now talk about the adoption of agile project management systems or agile project management methodologies. We have actually migrated from the traditional project management standards to agile project management standards. So everything we talk about now in operations and production management in project context, we are looking at them in the agile standards, not just in the traditional project management standard, but we're looking at them in the agile standards. Customers are involved. Work is being done as fast as possible. That we are using just-in-time approaches to produce the same quality that would have been done if it were to be mass produced, and at the same time at a lesser cost with better satisfaction and better quality. All right. So this number 2 of customer involvement is very, very important. And for all of us, we must start looking towards the adopting agile project management processes in our businesses. All right. Okay, then we'll have the production selection. Production selection process is done through a combination of financial analysis, risk analysis, existing product portfolio, raw material supply, and predetermined product criteria. Supply chain management and capacity planning. Let us look at the scenario. If you go to supermarket and pick up a few items of the shelf from electronics and white goods or even clothes and look at the labels, chances are that you will find them having been manufactured in China or Mexico. The coffee pods you buy to use for your everyday use comes from Africa. Computers have been shipped out of South America factories, and soft furnishings on the shelf from India and Hong Kong. So what do you analyze from the scenario in the previous slide? With the above scenario, you find companies procuring materials globally from various vendors to supply raw materials to their factories situated in different continents. The finished goods out of these different factory locations then pass through different chains of distribution network involving warehouses, exports to different countries or local markets, distributors, retailers, and finally to the end consumers. Now, let's now look at what supply chain is by definition. Supply chain, XCM, is the management of a network of all business processes and activities involving procurement of raw materials, manufacturing and distribution management of finished goods. And I'm going to ask a question. What are the safety hazards involved in supply chain management? Look at the definition of supply chain. It involves the management of a network of all business processes and activities involving procurement of raw materials, manufacturing and distribution management of finished goods. Let's take 5 minutes. The class is ending by 9:30, so let's take 5 minutes. What are the hazards? What are the risks associated with supply chain? Every business has its own supply chain system, right? Every business. And as we continue to grow and expand, our supply chain keeps expanding, right? Okay, so what are the hazards? What are the risks involved in supply chain management? What are the risks? What are the hazards? This is 851 or 751, depending on where you're watching from. Okay, so what are the hazards? Let's take it's remaining 4 minutes. Please, someone who can share with us, just raise your hand and then go ahead. What are the hazards in supply chain management? Hazards in supply chain management. Who is there? Hazards in supply chain management. Hope we're hearing me loud and clear. Or is the network breaking? Is the network breaking? Okay, the network is not breaking. Okay, so what are the hazards or what are the risks? What are the hazards or risks in supply chain management? Okay. Can somebody help us, please? All right. Honorable Patrick, good evening, sir, and welcome to class. Trust you had a great day.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, sir. Okay, I'll just give it a try. Risk involve supply chain management. The risks that are involved cut from the selection of the raw materials, whether it's the raw material needed for a particular production, the selection is of good quality, will be able to meet the desired products that have been envisaged to satisfy the customer.
Okay, so product risks. Okay, now I'm seeing something from the chat room. I'm seeing mechanical hazards. That's great. I'm seeing lack of raw materials as hazards. They'll have risk, poor product, maybe resulting from lack of raw materials and the likes. Now, I'm also seeing proximity to expertise. Okay, raw material market. Now, I want us to get something here. Whether you are a local company trying to expand across the board of the nation, or you're a national company trying to expand across the continent, or you're a continental company trying to expand beyond the continent. As you continue to expand, the need for supply chain management will continue to increase. All right. For instance, we in IPM, our trainings cut across. Our training is open to everyone around the globe. Our training is not just to Nigeria, it's not just Africa, it's open to everyone around the globe. Now, when we are done with training, done with exam, the most important thing people will value most is that their certificate, not even the money they paid for this thing. At the end of the day, if their certificate did not get their hand as at when due, that's when you will start receiving calls, comments, and all of that. You'll be so shocked that the people that told you, oh, this training was so awesome, when they did not receive the certificate as at when due, they will start telling you things that you'll be like, are you sure it's the same person that have been communicating with me? Now, where there is inefficiency in supply chain management, it will affect your product and service at the end of the day. Now, for instance, the people that did the last program, I think that was in May, their certificate has been ready for how long now? And the certificates were dispatched last week. But up to date, none of them has received their certificate via the supply chain management network. All right, the logistics company that is doing the distribution, they said, okay, it's going to take them 7 to 10 days to get everyone's certificate to their doorsteps So as of today, we've counted 8 days. I said, okay, no, we've counted. No, yeah, we've counted. Okay, today is the 8th day. So we have 2 days left. Now, if at the 10th day, everybody has been patient too. If at the 10th day they don't get that certificate, there will be issues. So the best thing we can do is to keep an open communication, to keep telling them, oh, your certificate has been dispatched. Just give the company a little time, they will get it to you. So importantly, supply chain management is critical if your business is going to become an all-round kind of business. What I mean by all-round kind of business is if you're going to have a channel of distribution, all right, if you're paying attention to channel of distribution, then supply chain management is important. No e-commerce company today can do without supply chain management. No production plant can do without supply chain management. No service plant that is doing global scale or doing beyond a limit within their, they will definitely have to embark on supply chain management. All right, they will definitely have to embark. So we need to pay attention on supply chain. If there is an issue, part of the hazards we could have, or part of the risks we could have, could be things. Somebody mentioned mechanical hazard, but part of the risk could be risk of accident. On the risk of accident, the material, the raw material could be damaged, or the produced product could be damaged, like we normally see with Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all those people supplying fuel, those supplying raw food, maybe oranges, cassava, and all of that. All right, so we need to pay attention to having an effective and efficient safety system in the supply chain management. All right, so we see things like beer and Star also, right? Okay, so I think it is getting closer to us. All right, so with this little illustration, let's see how we can move fast. Now, importance of supply chain management. 1, effective market average, availability of products at locations, then inventory control, and inventory visibility. Capacity is defined as the ability to achieve, store, or produce. For an organization, capacity would be the ability of a given system to produce output within the specific time period. Now, I think this is the area I was trying to explain. Look at this very well. Look at this very well. Capacity is defined as the ability to achieve, store, or produce. Just look at the definition very well. For an organization, capacity will be the ability of a given system to produce output within the specific time period. Time period. We are in an era where impatience had replaced patience. So when you tell a customer you will get it tomorrow, don't ever try to bargain it. Don't try to change it. If you must change it, then you must put up a communication system that he will be able to adapt with. But for you to tell a customer, we'll get this thing for you tomorrow, and then as of the time the customer now calls, you tell the customer, I'm sorry, we couldn't get this thing to you. Please give us. The customer, first of all, will be dissatisfied in your product, dissatisfied in your service. And if you don't put up efforts to make the necessary correction, you'll be dissatisfied in your product. And one single statement from a customer in customer relations will tell you that one dissatisfied customer will take away 10 productive customers from you. For every one dissatisfied customer, you're losing 10 productive customers. Now, for every time you lose 10 productive customers, you have lost 100 productive customers by either word of mouth or any other means they want to do it. Okay, and for any time, in fact, the higher the number of dissatisfied customers you have, the closer the debt of your business. So if we say specified time, we must learn to have our processes to deliver as of the time required. In operations, management capacity is referred as an amount of the input resources available to produce relative output over a period of time. Okay. You know, those days we were in school, I did economics in school, and I know most of us did economics in school. And I have never for once in my life understood the meaning of when definitions are given, I say over a specified period of time. I didn't understand the meaning of over a specified period of time in all of those definitions until when I became a consultant. And I discovered that for any time you're saying for over a specified period of time, you're already entering a contract. Okay? Time is the basic definition of contract. Whenever time is defined, is as good as saying that the contract is defined. All right? So we must pay attention to understanding how the processes and products, or process designs and product designs will be able to deliver the product to customers at specified periods in time. Need for capacity planning. Capacity planning is essential to determine optimum utilization of resources and plays an important role in decision-making process. For example, extension of existing operations, modifications to product lines, starting new products, and so on. Classification of planning, capacity planning. Please, we'll be sharing the attendance very shortly. So please, no one should leave for now. The attendance will be shared shortly. Then we can sign our attendance and then go and have our rest. Capacity planning classification. Capacity planning based on time on the timeline is classified into three main categories. They are the long-term capacity planning, medium-term capacity planning, and short-term capacity planning. Let's quickly look at each one and see what it has to say. Long-range capacity of an organization is dependent on the various other capacities like design capacity, production capacity, sustainable capacity, and effective capacity. For the medium term, it is the strategic capacity planning undertaken by organization for 2 to 3 years of a time frame. The strategic capacity planning undertaken by organization for 2 to 3 years of a time frame is referred to as medium-term capacity planning. Then you have the short-term, the strategic planning undertaken by organization for a daily, weekly, or quarterly time frame is referred to as short-term. Now, if you notice something, the long-term capacity planning was not given any specified time. If you remember what I shared about goals earlier in this class, we talked about the short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals or objectives, right? And I was trying to say that in organizational strategies, we could have long-term goals expanding up to 500 years and beyond, dependent on the vision of the organization. They could have short-term goals being maybe 50 to 100 years, and then you have, medium-term goals being 50 to 100 years. Then you have short-term goals being from 10, 5, 3 years, dependent on the objective of the organization. All right? Okay. Goal of capacity planning. The ultimate goal of capacity planning is to meet current and future level of the requirement at minimal wastage. The three types of capacity planning based on goal are the three types of capacity planning based on goals. We have the lag strategy planning, then we have the lead capacity planning, then we have the match strategy planning. Lag strategy planning, lead capacity planning, and then we have the match strategy planning. Okay, so let's see what each one has to say. Oh, you are not really explaining. Okay, I'm going to explain. It was not explained in further detail, but let me explain. Let's pick the keywords there and use the keywords to get the actual meaning of what each of the goals are all about. Lag is when we are behind. Lead is when we are on top of the game. And match is when we're exactly at the point. Now, lag, let me use project case as example. So let's assume a project is the actual duration of a project. Let's assume the actual duration of a project is 10 days, assumedly 10 days. And the project estimate, the project time estimate is maybe 20 days. Okay. That means the actual time to do the project is 10 days, but we're having 20 days to the project. So it means that we have a lag time, a time we can use to play, joke, turn, jump around and all of that. We have 10 days to do all of that. Okay, and we have 20 days on lead. So 20 days is the actual time for this project. Okay, then we have the match strategy. The match strategy and the lead strategy is almost the same, but the difference here is on a lead strategy puts you on pressure to deliver. Lead capacity planning puts you on the pressure. It keeps you on that point of you must deliver. But match strategy fixes each work with a specified capacity to deliver it. Okay, it fixes you with a specified capacity to deliver it. So let's take lag strategy planning, a job that's supposed to take 10 people. You are now hiring 20 people to do it. So the remaining 10 people might not really be that productive. That's the lag strategy planning. So in essence, it's trying to tell you that to avoid the wastage, you should use either a match strategy or a lead strategy. Now, if you're going to be using lead strategy, a work that's supposed to take 10 people, you could be using 5 people or less to do it. So you're putting the people under pressure to deliver the work. Then the match strategy, it requires 10 people and you're providing exactly 10 people to do the work. All right? Okay. Factors affecting capacity planning. Effective capacity planning is dependent upon factors like production facility, example, layout, design, and location, then product line or matrix, production technology, human capital, involving job design and compensation, operational structures like scheduling, quality assurance, and external structures like policy and safety regulations. Facilities planning. Facilities planning. The first thing we look at in facilities planning is facility location. Facility location is the right location for manufacturing facility. It will have sufficient access to the customers, workers, transportation, and so on. Facility location determines a business critical strategic decision. There are several factors which determine the location of facility. Among them are competition, cost, and corresponding associated effects. Facility location is a scientific process utilizing various techniques. Now, before now, we used to place critical condition on locations of businesses. But today, every business can be to us as close as they want to be through technology. Okay, every business can be to us today as soon as they want to be. I used to use bank, or I used bank as a case study, and I used to use UBA as a case study. When I was growing up, I used to go to bank with my dad. Okay, and my dad would always go to bank with his check. All right. So whenever he gets to the bank, he will write a check and then push up a lead and send it through to the person on the other side who will capture it and then process the check and then give us the money. We'll go. But today we don't do that kind of transactions now. The bank is to us now as close as the air we breathe. So you can use your USSD, you can use your app, you can use their website in anything you want to use. So where they are located now physically might not really be a challenge, because they have given us virtual locations that have given us much more comfort and convenience than the physical location. So apart from the physical locations that we all talk about, we must also pay attention to making sure that we are strategic in our facility location. When I teach consulting, okay, when I teach, for those of us that are going for certified international management consultant, when I teach consulting, I tell consultants, you don't need an office to start. If you have a system or you have an Android phone, you can start. And you can actually make good money before you have your office, as it were. That's if there is actually need for office. Okay. Before I joined IPM, I started my first consulting firm. Okay. Whenever I share this story, it's always funny, but it's not really funny. It's actually a reality. I started my first consulting firm with a system and a phone, Nokia series. I think it was Nokia C12, right? That system, my friends used to say that my system was a 50 kg laptop. It was actually a heavy laptop that if you put it inside the bag, a brand new bag, just give it a matter of 1 to 3 months, it will start tearing the bag, start spoiling the zip. It was that heavy. But one day, just listen to me critically. One day I was passing through a business center. This thing I'm telling you now, the day I had this experience was around 2007, 2008. I was passing through a business. Then the only source of internet then was the cyber cafe. Android phones were not that much then. And this data thing we are talking about now, data wasn't that rampant then. Okay. So I was passing through a business center, a cyber cafe, and I saw them fixing something. And I saw the way they were desperate about what they were doing, or anxious about what they were doing. So I asked them, what are you doing? They said they want to connect this phone to this desktop so that they can use it to browse. And I asked them how. They said there is a software that Nokia has that if you install it in this system and you connect the Nokia with your cord, with your USB cord, and then phones with Wi-Fi wasn't that much. You could barely see phones with Wi-Fi by 2000, early 2000. It was barely difficult to see phones with Wi-Fi. So you needed a USB cord to connect. And I asked them, what's the name of the software? They told me Nokia PC Suite. I was like, wow, that's good. Now in 2012, I had a system, 50 kg laptop, according to my friends. Then I had exactly the same phone they were trying to work then. And I bought 100, I think then 10 MB was 100 Naira. So I bought 10 MB to download the Nokia PC Suite, which was about 3.2 megabytes on my phone, all right? Then I downloaded it and sent it to the laptop. Then I installed it and connected it, and I found out how the whole thing was trying to play. At the end of the day, I tried connecting and it worked perfectly, just that it would take you a longer time to do whatever thing you want to do. And that was the bet of my first consulting company. I started learning how to do web design, and not too long, I designed my first website and launched it. It wasn't up to 1 week after I launched that particular website, a company called me from UK and wanted to partner with me from Nigeria. And then I was still, I didn't really know much about consulting then. I just wanted to give what I have, just open up. All right. So you don't really need all of these big office, 5 million naira office, 1 million naira office, or whatsoever to start. You can start with your phone, your laptop, and then as you progress, you can have your office. All right? Okay. What brought me to this is the facility location. You can still have your facility located in a virtual environment. Then as you proceed, you can bring it out to the physical environment. All right? Thank you. Location selection factors. For a company which operates in a global environment, costs, available infrastructure, labor, skill, government policies, and environment are very important factors. A right location provides adequate access to customers, skilled laborers, transportation, and so on. A right location ensures success of the organization in current global competitive environment. Errors in selection can be divided into two broad categories. The errors in location selection. Errors can be divided into two broad categories. We have the behavioral errors and we have the non-behavioral errors. For the behavioral errors, are decisions made by executives of the company where personal factors are considered before success of location. For example, movement of personal establishment from hometown to new location facility. You have the non-behavioral errors include lack of proper investigative practice and analysis, ignoring critical factors and characteristics of the industry. Location strategy. The goal of an organization is customer delight or customer experience. For that, it needs access to customers at minimum possible cost. This is achieved by developing location strategy. Location strategy helps the company in determining product offering, market demand forecast in different markets, best location to access customers, and best manufacturing and service location. Factors influencing service or facility location will have customer proximity, business area, availability of skilled labor, environmental policies, suppliers, and then we have free trade zones and agreements. Facility layout is an arrangement of different aspects of manufacturing in an appropriate manner to achieve desired production result. Facility layout considers available space, final product, safety of users and facility, and convenience of operations. Facility layout objectives. To provide optimal space, to organize equipment and facilitate movement of goods, and to create safe and comfortable work environment. To promote order in production towards a single objective, to reduce movement of workers, raw material and equipment, to promote safety of plant as well as workers, to facilitate extension or change in the layout to accommodate new product line or technology upgradation, to increase production capacity of the organization. Factors affecting facility layout. The design of the facility layout should consider overall objectives set by the organization. Optimal space needs to be allocated for process and technology. A proper safety measure to avoid mishaps should be put in place. Then overall management policies and future direction of the organization is also important to determine the layout. Design of facility layouts. The principles which drive design of facility layout need to take into the consideration objective of the facility layout, factors influencing facility layout, and constraints of facility layout. These principles are as follows. We have the flexibility, Facility layout should provide flexibility for expansion or modification. They will have capital. Capital investment should be minimal when finalizing different models of facility layout. They will have space utilization. Optimal space utilization reduces the time in material and people movement and promotes safety. Design layout techniques. We have the three major techniques for design layout, and they include 2 or 3 dimensional templates, sequence analysis, and we have the line balancing. For 2 or 3 dimensional techniques, this technique utilizes development of a statistical, the development of a scaled down model rather, based on approved drawings. This technique utilizes, I'm talking on the 2 or 3 dimensional templates. This technique utilizes development of a scaled down model based on approved drawings. They will have the line balancing. This kind of technique is used for assembly line. Then you have the sequence analysis. This technique utilizes computer technology in designing the facility layout by sequencing out all activities and then arranging them in circular or in a straight line. Types of facility layout, we have the line layout, functional layout, fixed position layout, cellular technology layout, combined layout, and we have the computerized relative allocation of facility technique. Okay, materials management and warehouse. Raw materials should be converted into finished goods for selling, but after purchase and before selling, they need to be in good care. Any damage or theft to the material is going to increase the cost to the organization. So it becomes important for organizations to have a robust and effective warehouse as well as materials management. Scope of warehouse management. Generally, warehouse is structure or building design, keeping in mind raw material and finished goods it is going to store. Therefore, warehouse management should be able to receive the purchased goods entered upon the stock register, inventory accounting of raw material, work in progress of finished goods. Then you have preservation of the inventory. They have ability to access goods whenever called upon. Then appropriate record keeping through coding and to I think I made a mistake here. Proper stocking of goods and to ensure smooth handling. Appropriate record keeping through coding and to preserve goods and reduce obsolescence. Scope of warehouse management. Warehouse management significantly increases the overall efficiency of the production and organization. A robust warehouse management would ensure a smooth flow of production, appropriate layout management to reduce material handling and equipment handling, reduce wastage as well as spoilage, eliminate the possibility of theft and damage, ensure preservation of the environment and reduce pollution, encourage cost reduction and driving efficiency. Okay, I just have 5 minutes remaining to round up this class. So let me see whether I can get done with this. Warehouse design. Warehouse design is art in which goods and materials can be stored to reduce wastage, cost of carrying, and increase safety. The various factors considered for warehouse design are as follows. Easy material handling, including receipt, dispatch, and storage. Easy supervision of materials as well as personnel. Reduce and control obsolescence of goods by following appropriate methods. Then we have optimal utilization of space. Storage location. There are 3 general ways in which goods are stocked to reduce material handling and increase prompt access. They are as follows. Fixed position, in which specific area is located where designated goods are stored. If the designated goods are not there, that space will remain empty. Fixed position encourages easy and traceable access to the goods. They will have the random storage, in which goods are stored wherever space is available. Here, maximum utilization of the space is achieved. They have 3 categorized fixed location, in which particular set of products are typically, or particular set of products are placed randomly in the allotted space. So they are typically placed in a random place. Okay, I think I will have to stop this class here because of time. I will actually have to start the next class from facility warehouse management. Now, at this juncture, please, if there's any question for me, I just have 3 minutes remaining. So let's get the attendance. So while we're getting the attendance, if there's any question for me, if there's any contribution, any remark, please, you can go ahead and do that within the next 3 minutes. Any question, please? Any question, please? The attendance is coming up now. So please, let's not go until we have signed our attendance, please. While I await the questions. Oh. Okay, so the attendance is up now. Okay, so I've posted the attendance. Please, if you've seen the attendance, kindly fill it out. If you've seen the attendance, kindly fill it out. Is there anyone who has not seen the attendance, please? Is there anyone who has not seen the attendance? You've not seen the attendance, you can comment, you can put your hand up so that we'll be sure that you are seeing the attendance. Is there anyone who has not seen the attendance? I've not seen my attendance. Can we see your hand up? Okay, if that be the case, can we call it a night from here? Please, let's put into remembrance, this class continues tomorrow and next tomorrow till Saturday, and we are getting done this weekend so that we can have the time to prepare for exams. All right, can we round up? Can we say good night from here? Can I shut down the class? All right, I'm going to give 5 minutes for attendance. After that, I'm going to shut down the class. Thank you so much.